Welcome, acolytes. Somebody, not me, but somebody, actually got their hands or his hands on the freaking AC Shadows. He played it for the Yongi. From time to time watchable. All the time actually, but hey, it's what it is. And I actually quite trust Yongi on things like this, so just hear what he has to say about it and let's start.
So there is a lot riding on Assassin's Creed Shadows right now. If you've been keeping up with Ubisoft, you know that the company is in a lot of trouble. A bunch of their projects got delayed. We've got situations like the layoffs and the studio shutdowns, their major releases not meeting sales expectations. They are hoping that Assassin's Creed Shadows will kind of bring them back from the rut. So I was very curious to play the title.
You forgot that the freaking fighting system looks terrible. The graphics are mid at best.
Able to get 4 hours hands-on with it. And in this video, I'll be sharing my thoughts. I do think that this game is going to sell relatively well. Assassin's Creed usually tends to sell well, and with the Japan setting, this is definitely a game that's gaining a lot of traction. Now, whether I think this game will be the one that pushes Assassin's Creed to the next level, that will break away from Ubisoft's staleness as far as their game design is concerned, that I'm not quite sure of. Within my 4 hours hands-on time, I will say that I'm not fully convinced that this is going to win over those who have felt that Assassin's Creed has gone kind of stale. It's going to come down to whether there is still that sense of an overabundance of content that feels insubstantial, that doesn't feel handcrafted. A lot of that copy and pasted stuff that Ubisoft open world games tend to have.
Yeah, they make it in a boring way. Because at the end of the day, you can have a lot of busy work. I think like large open worlds that, like The Witcher, it had a lot of things to do. Of course, also things that were repetitive, but they still had a lot of fun, so you can make it good. But not Assassin's Creed, no.
As far as like the story and narrative are concerned, nothing shown in this demo really grabbed me. In some part to do with just how stiff some of the animations look during cutscenes.
What the fuck?
The presentation is just, when I look at what, say, like Ghost of Tsushima did, in compare.
Don't compare Ghost of Tsushima to this shit. If you compare shit to a beautiful bouquet of roses, this just won't work.
This just feels like a bit of a step down, but maybe the narrative will hook me as the rest of the game goes along. But so far, I just didn't have that narrative hook, which for me is an important part of any campaign-driven single-player experience. And there's just a bit of awkwardness to some of the dialogue and the writing that don't lend themselves to natural feeling conversations, that don't allow me to feel fully immersed in everything that's going on. And based on what this gameplay session presented, I'll be honest with you, neither of the protagonists are particularly interesting. They don't have any like personality quirks that stand out. They don't have any like awesome chemistry that make their interactions compelling. Nothing.
Of course not. They are made by people that are freaks, social freaks. And they just don't know how people actually interact with each other to a certain degree. That's natural.
Nothing in these initial hours showed anything interesting that drew me to these characters. Hopefully that will change over time. I will say that in terms of gameplay, Yasuke and Naoe do feel quite different. Yasuke definitely feels like that bulldozer, the hammer, if you will, who will trounce through enemies and combat scenarios. Naoe is definitely more about agility, about being stealthy. If Yasuke is the hammer, then Naoe would be the scalpel. She can still hold her own in combat. You'll just have an easier time with Yasuke, who has those powerhouse moves and active skills to be able to trounce enemies. And not to mention that with Yasuke, for example, doing parkour is just a lot more awkward because of how slow and chonky he is, whereas Naoe just kind of breezes through obstacles and environments, and she just has all the right tools for stealth And so it's a matter of what kind of approach you want to take with every mission, with every scenario, whether you want to just like literally bust through the front doors, which Yasuke can do, or whether you want to kind of take it through the roofs or through the shadows. And I'd say the moment-to-moment gameplay of the two characters, aside from feeling distinct, feels relatively good. I'd say Yasuke's combat, while I still need to play more of it, there is like a nice sense of impact with every strike.
Yongi, did you just see the same thing I did?
Aside from feeling distinct, feels relatively good. I'd say Yasuke's combat, while I still need to play more of it, there is like a nice sense of impact with every strike.
I'm gonna be honest, I don't want to say he's coping, but Acolytes, I think the man never played a good game in his life that actually has fluid, nice combat. Ooh.
Do you think that some of the enemy combat move designs just a little weird, where it feels like you're attacking them and then you don't see them get stunned by some of your stronger attacks, and they're automatically able to dish out attacks that will stop your momentum, and so there is an element.
No, that's normal. That's normal. A lot of games have an eternal stagger immunity built in, so you don't stun them to death, basically. That's actually quite normal. Is it annoying? I think so. You should make the AI actually block or something like that, not just do an instant stagger thing, but hey, it is what it is.
Of that kind of disrupted the flow. Combat can feel good when it's flowing well, but then there are other times where just that bit of jankiness comes in, where it feels like it's just not the most refined combat system.
Oh, fuck.
And as far as the stealth and parkour goes, you've got the parkour up and parkour down buttons that you can hold, so you can have more finesse in the parkour. I do like that now it has that grappling hook now, which makes it so much easier to get to rooftops. Vertical traversal feels just a lot better because of now his new tools and capabilities, especially with that grappling hook, which not only allows you to ascend to greater heights easily, but allows you to like swing through trees and whatnot. The stealth system now has the ability for you to go prone, which is a nice addition, allows for just a bit more flexibility. So there are definitely some mechanical elements that I did enjoy from moment to moment, though I do still hate scenarios where one of the larger type enemies, like the brute archetypes, when you go for an assassination, if they're higher level than you, then a blade through the throat or through the face or through the head won't end up killing them. It'll deplete, you know, a significant portion of their life bar, but not take them down. It just makes assassination feel a little more secondary, less satisfactory. I've never liked the introduction of that kind of scaling for the assassination part of the game. And the fact that that makes a return is just a little bit annoying. In terms of the overall game design, that's where I'm still quite unsure as to whether this is going to fall prey to the same old Ubisoft open world formula. They do try to make...
Oh, the stealth play right now. Ooh. Okay. Yeah, I don't even know what I expected. This looks bad. This just looks... let's repeat that, Acolytes. Just look what actually happens and what you are doing.
A significant portion of their life bar, but not take them down. It just makes assassination feel a little more secondary, less satisfactory. I've never liked the introduction of that kind of scaling for the assassination part of the game. And the fact that that makes a return is just a little bit annoying. In terms of the overall game design, that's where I'm still quite unsure as to whether this is going to fall prey to the same old Ubisoft open world formula. They do try to make exploration and going after quest objectives a little more engaging by having the system where you can send a scout and you can kind of pull that up on your map, and there's this big area that you can send your scouts in to unearth the objective marker by using the hints on the objectives to know where on the map you use that big area scout system, almost like as a radar. And I'll be honest with you, that didn't really enhance the sense of exploration. It doesn't feel like there's much of a challenge to it or sense of like critical thinking involved. The clues are so obvious and the scouting system is like so powerful that it just feels like it's just additional button presses to then just end up following a quest marker after essentially some very easy investigation.
Yeah.
And I didn't get to mess around with side quests all that much. There was one I stumbled upon where there's this orphan girl who was asking me for help, but I wasn't able to do that side quest before my time ran out. So I don't know what the quality of the side quests will be, whether they'll feel kind of really cheap and very kind of thrown together, or whether all of the side quests feel like they have substantially written arcs where every side quest feels like it has a place in the world and like it was handcrafted instead of just littering the world with really menial feeling tasks that don't make for compelling side quests. That's a trap that a lot of Ubisoft open world games tend to fall into.
Fair enough.
I don't know how the sense of exploration will feel like in this game, whether it's going to be the same affair of just like following a bunch of map markers based on what the UB towers reveal. And yes, the UB towers are back. You will be going to the peaks of certain architectures to reveal parts of the map and the activities that lay there. The map itself is also just massive from what I could see, and I don't know that that's necessarily a good thing. I prefer density over volume, quality over quantity. I just hope that the open world actually feels fun to explore and like the activities within them don't feel as menial as they've been in the past, but I don't know, it just feels like every time I hope for that, Assassin's Creed tends to disappoint in that area, and Ubisoft open world games in general tend to disappoint in that area. So while usually I'd be excited for a world that's bigger, when it comes to Ubisoft, that actually worries me more because it feels like it's going to just be stretched thin, this map that won't have enough substance to back the size of it. Though I hope I'm wrong. At the very least, though, the open world does look fairly beautiful. I do think the environmental design, the vegetation and terrain, the architectures, and all of that does look pretty. When the wind blows, you can see the foliage just kind of swaying about as you ride your horse through Japan, and all of that does look very pretty. So it's nice to just kind of take the environment in, but I just hope that there's actually...
You know what also looked pretty? I don't even remember how this freaking game is called. Awoken, but with the spell-slinging black chick. Unspoken, I don't remember how it's called. Irrelevant. There are big words that they look pretty, but it doesn't mean jack shit if the gameplay is just bad.
Actually stuff to do in the environment that isn't boring, and that all feels kind of interesting and has some sense of intrigue, and it feels like you want to actually partake in them instead of it feeling like a chore. I also need more time to feel out the progression system of this game. It's kind of how, you know, recent Assassin's Creed games have worked, where you level up or you gain essentially like skill points or perk points, whatever you want to call them, and invest them in skills. Both characters have their own skill trees, as they all have their different weapon sets, both ranged and melee. And a lot of these perks do seem to offer substantial additions to combat, especially where those active skills are concerned. And then there's the equipment system, where it feels like each piece of armor does offer like substantial perks that shape the place.
Okay, to be fair, the armor looks awesome. The armor looks really good.
Style of your respective two characters, of your protagonists. I just hope that the armor pieces are more about quality versus quantity, where it doesn't feel like you're looting a bunch of stuff and then picking from them, where it's not about finding the epic or legendary versions of the same stuff, but rather finding unique pieces that each offer their own effects, and deciding which one to equip is a matter of playstyle and the perks they offer, rather than these incremental statistical updates where you'll barely feel the difference. But yeah, the game definitely does try to present scenarios where each character is viable, but one might be better suited for. Like, you can still use Naoe in combat-heavy scenarios. You might just struggle a little more compared to Yasuke, who was built to bulldoze through combat. And then for stuff that requires a bit more finesse, a bit more stealth, where it's easier to go through the rooftops to reach an objective or to steal something or to assassinate someone, now it might just allow for a more expedient way to do that. But ultimately, it does feel like both characters are viable in whatever scenario you're thrown into, as long as you're willing to go through the hurdles of...
Yeah, the thing is, as he says it, you pick one character, the other one is AFK in the base. Let the characters go out together, hand in hand. If you pick the samurai, just let the freaking ninja just go around, maybe throw a freaking, I don't know, shuriken at someone and kill him in front of you and be like, okay, good, you go just... So there is something that they are working together with each other, but yeah.
Picking a character who's maybe less suited for the mission type. It's also worth noting that outside of missions, when you're out and about in the open world, you can switch characters anytime super easily from the menu. So you're able to switch play styles basically at almost any time, and at key junctures in missions, you'll be able to pick which character you want to play as. But yeah, I mean, so far it feels like the bottom line is, if you like modern Assassin's Creed, this is just more of that with some refinements, the combat and the parkour system and stealth. I think the moment-to-moment gameplay already does feel better than the previous entry, Valhalla. But moment-to-moment gameplay is one thing, and then there's like what's around the moment-to-moment gameplay, the activities that you partake in, the level design, just the pacing and flow of the open world and the main campaign, all of those things I've still yet to see how that will pan out in the final game. But I don't know.
Okay, buddy.
Moment gameplay, the activities that you partake in, the level design, just the pacing and flow of the open world and the main campaign, all of those things I've still yet to see how that will pan out in the final game.
Yeah,
but I don't know. Part of me feels like this is going to be yet another scenario of like the game just being too big for its own good. There's such a thing as less is more, and that's a lesson that I think Ubisoft just doesn't seem to want to learn, and that's something that's afflicted a lot of, I think, Assassin's Creed games. The formula still feels similar enough to previous modern Assassin's Creed games where I'm not entirely sure that by the time I actually play the full game, this is going to convince me that the Assassin's Creed formula has, you know, really tried to evolve and really get more creative. Aside from some tense combat and stealth scenarios, I don't think this is going to be the game that will convert you to this style of Assassin's Creed if it's something that you haven't enjoyed. The setting is cool and well realized, but the story and the characters and the scenarios not hooking me means that if the activities do end up being a chore and a bore, then this is going to be a tough game to get through. So I really hope that narratively and in terms of how compelling the characters are, all of that picks up very quickly in the final game. So yeah, that's all I have to say based on the 4 hours that I've played. I do want to finish the game before I share my final thoughts, but I'm not convinced that this will be able to live up to or surpass the likes of Ghost of Tsushima, which for me kind of became the new Assassin's Creed. Just feel a little smoother and a little more versatile and like you're more in control. But who knows, maybe I'll come to appreciate Assassin's Creed Shadows if I play more of it. But my experience with Ubisoft's last few releases just has me apprehensive.
Yeah,
but at the very least, that's one man's take. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on Assassin's Creed Shadows based on everything you've seen. And to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on...
By the way, this is freaking annoying. This shit is freaking annoying. You basically just have extra armor and extra life thing.
Everything you've seen, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, just stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time.
Especially with this one.
Young out.
I think the execute is fine, I guess, but okay. I mean, fair enough, I guess. The thing is, this game, it's just... What can I say? There just isn't anything to add, except for maybe Yonki was very generous. He was extremely generous to this game. And I mean really extremely generous. Because at best, from what I've seen until now, it's a 4 out of 10. Maybe the story will be so good that it baffles me totally, but nah. But as it is, Acolyte, good night.